where do you start to refute the president's incorrect factual statements? I hope he got the date right, and I'm sure it was at night. Other than that, everything he said was false. SALT was a direct political attack on this state and other Democratic states. What SALT did was, it was tucked into the federal tax reform bill. Nobody understood it. It sounded complicated. Stop the deduction of state and local taxes, SALT. It affects primarily, if not exclusively, Democratic states, and changes the tax structure in this nation, where the red states got a tax cut. The blue states actually got a tax increase. It was an economic civil war, done subtly, done with nuance. But we now have one tax structure, and the red states have a different tax structure. The average New Yorker pays $20,000 in state and local taxes. That means the SALT deduction taxes that differential by the federal tax of about 30%. So it's the first time in history since Lincoln passed the income tax that there is a tax on taxes. So you pay your income tax to New York City, the federal government taxes it. You pay your property tax, the federal government taxes it. It's a tax on tax. It is devastating. And the states with the higher state and local taxes, obviously, it's more devastating. Our revenues are down $2.3 billion, which is a very big number, and we're going to have to scramble now to cover that hole. But I'm afraid, Bill, that it is just the beginning of a trend. And look, we have a migratory pattern to Carolina, to Florida, right? Everybody's grandparents used to talk about, and then I'm going to retire and move to Florida. There was weather issues, climate issues. But now the economic incentive to move out of New York is higher than it has ever been. And SALT put that problem on steroids. Our tax collections are down about 50%. Massachusetts are down about 50%. Jersey's down about 40%. Connecticut is down close to 50%. The non-SALT states, some of them are seeing increases. So it is direct cause and effect. It kills all of New York. Trump talking about upstate New York is like me talking about Antarctica. You know, I have never been there, and I know nothing about it. Upstate New York, jobs are coming back. The unemployment rate that is now at an all-time low in the state of New York, that is all across the state. It's not just New York City. Young people are moving back to Buffalo. Young people are moving back to Rochester. So it's a totally different economic reality than he's talking about. He also said something, you know, he said, President Reagan tried to get this done, state and local taxes, and he failed, but I got it done. You know, it was that Trump machismo. Reagan tried, but he failed, and I got it done. And he had a rationale that Reagan talked to some New Yorkers who talked him out of it. President Reagan listened to reason and logic and sense, and he was not a divider. And when they said to President Reagan, if you do this, you will hurt New York, the Northeast, California, and 20 other states, and how do you have a national recovery when you're devastating New York, the Northeast, and California? President Reagan said, you're right, and he reversed course. President Trump should have half the wisdom on this issue that President Reagan brought.